Another component of the hydraulic system that may need servicing is the caliper. Some symptoms that may require servicing the caliper include brake pulls, the caliper piston not retracting, uneven pad wear, torn dust boots, brake fluid leaking from the caliper piston seal, or a seized bleeder screw. We will discuss removing a seized bleeder screw shortly. The first step in rebuilding or replacing a caliper is to remove it. Remove and plug the hoses and lines. Depending on the amount of clearance, you may need to remove the brake pads. Save the hardware. If there is no damage that will affect its performance, the hardware may be reused. On sliding calipers, remove the clips and keys and remove the caliper. On floating calipers, remove any mounting hardware and slide the caliper off the vehicle. If the caliper is fixed, remove all supporting bolts and remove the caliper. Once the caliper is removed, inspect it for cracks, other physical damage, pitting, or corrosion. If any of the damage affects the caliper's structural integrity, you will need to replace the caliper. Next, you will need to loosen the bleeder screw. Try to loosen the bleeder screw with a box wrench or 6-point socket. If it is stuck, apply penetrating oil to the bleeder screw. Wait 10 minutes and try to loosen it again. If it is still stuck, remove the piston and use a torch to apply heat to the bleeder screw. Then pour water over the bleeder screw and attempt to loosen it. If, after several attempts, you cannot loosen the screw, or if the bleeder screw breaks, you will need to replace the caliper.
Once you remove the bleeder screw on a caliper that is to be rebuilt, you will need to remove the caliper piston if it was not previously removed. There are 3 methods you can use: compressed air, mechanical, or hydraulic. Select each button to learn more. When finished, select Next to continue.
Secure the caliper in a vise. Put a wooden block between the piston and caliper body. The piston should be allowed to move but not leave the bore. Cover the caliper to prevent fluid from spraying. Put an air nozzle with a rubber tip into the port. Then gradually add air to the caliper using the least amount of pressure possible. Do not exceed 90 to 100 psi, 620.52 to 689.48 kilopascals. When the piston loosens, remove the nozzle, block, and piston. The mechanical procedure works best on calipers with multiple pistons. When you are working with multiple piston calipers and use one of the other techniques, you have to block the open port to that piston. Secure the caliper in a vise. Using a piston removal tool, grip the inside of the piston securely. Turn the locking bolt with an expanding tool until it is tight. Loosen the piston by rocking it back and forth. As a last resort, there is a third method, using hydraulic pressure to remove a stuck piston. Make sure that the master cylinder is at least half full and that the vacuum booster has not been exhausted. With the vehicle on a hoist, remove the caliper set from their supports and hang them from the chassis. Place large containers under the vehicle. Then put a wooden block between the piston and caliper body. Have another technician step on the brake pedal several times. The pressure created will loosen the pistons. Once loosened, disconnect and plug the hoses. Now remove the caliper and drain the fluid into a container. Finish removing the pistons by hand. Now, gently remove the dust boot and piston seal. Do not damage the piston while doing this. Compare the old seals to the new ones to verify that they are the correct replacements. Then, throw the originals away. Clean the caliper with alcohol or brake cleaning solvent and a soft brush. Remove any dirt from the bores with a soft scouring pad. Do not use wire brushes because they can cause damage to the piston, which can lead to leaks. Then use a crocus cloth dampened with brake fluid to remove debris, corrosion, and small scratches from the piston and bore. A hone can also be used in the bore if needed. If there is any damage that cannot be cleaned up, the caliper will need to be replaced. Inspect the piston for damage. If there is any damage, corrosion, or wear that will affect performance, replace the piston. Chrome and anodized surfaces should not be scratched or flaking. If they are, replace the piston. If the piston is plastic, also known as phenolic, inspect it for cracks or chips. If you find any that will affect its performance, replace the piston. When rebuilding rear calipers, you may have to also adjust the parking brake mechanism. Some types of calipers require additional steps to be rebuilt. Refer to the manufacturer's service information for specific details.
Now you will learn how to reassemble the caliper. Select each tab for more information. When finished, select Next to continue.
Place the piston seal in the bore. Then install the dust seal on the piston. Now lubricate the piston, bore, and seal with clean brake fluid. Push the piston into the bore and use a seal tool to push the dust boot into place. Install the bleeder screw. You are now ready to install the caliper. The caliper installation procedure is the reverse of the removal procedure. Now we will do an exercise to install the caliper.